Book of Wars Against Jehovah. Chapter 52. 1. Of the land of Egypt, the above sufficeth, and of Parsia and Hellas, these things are the chief, as regardeth the dominion of Osiris, Baal, and Astaroth to wit. 2. Because of the persecutions of Fathists and shepherd kings and Lystians, these people fled into Parsia and Hellas for hundreds of years, and they built cities and established kingdoms. 3. And none of these accepted the Lord, or God, or Deus, but for the most part worshipped the Great Spirit. Nevertheless, they were not Fathists in purity, for they engaged in war and lived not in communities with rabbis as rulers, but dwelt together after the manner of warriors. 4. To Baal and Astaroth was committed the duty of subjugating these people unto Osiris, savior of mortals. So Baal and Astaroth, finding them stubborn in the worship of the Great Spirit, finally resolved to make them destroy one another after the same manner as Tain and Japheth and Sudga and Vindu. And they asked Osiris for armies of warring angels for that purpose. Osiris gave him the following great angel generals and high captains to wit. 5. Jah, Apollonia, Pitoris, Plutania, Hiram, Ben, Yub, Elijah, Aris, Sawang, Tacrano, Aphrodite, Argo, Oyeb, Nadar, Abel, Said, Artemis, Yaktaroth, Wab, Josh, and Haur. And besides these, there were the following deserters from Tain and Sedga, to wit, Clu, John, Isaiah, Yam, Luth, Bar, Hote, Kaidom, Athena, Hira, Okeanos, Hermes, Poseidon, Urana, Hace, Tesodus, Rakram, Mekak, Tol, Taeus, Wawoski, Sir, Alajax, and Hesmoin. 6. And Baal and Astaroth cast lots for each of the above generals and captains. Turnabout they chose until they were divided equally between them. And Osiris gave to Baal and Astaroth each 500 million warring angels, and thus armed they descended to the earth, to the objectionable regions of Parsia and Hellas. In those days, these great divisions of the earth were divided into many nations and kingdoms. 7. And a kingdom was not measured according to the land, but according to the number of cities that paid tribute to the central city, though some kingdoms had but one city. 8. These then are some of the largest cities that Baal and Astaroth determined to destroy, to wit, Suyan, with 5 tributary cities, Lakail, with 2 tributaries, Hangan, with 8 tributaries, Was, with 3, Laga, with 6, Tol, with 6, Sun, with 5, Tos, with 4, Troy, with 6, Abed, with 2, Athena, with 12, Hes, with 4, Ituna, with 12, Phado, with 10, Tuna, with 7, and Wakat, with 7. And besides these, there were many large cities without any tributary cities, which were also doomed to everlasting destruction. 9. The first great cities thus turned to war on each other were Haugan and Loga, Astaroth choosing Haugan and Baal choosing Loga. 10. These 2 cities were both of more than 400 years standing and contained each 500,000 inhabitants, besides their tributary cities. Tojak was king of Haugan. He was the son of Soma, who was the son of Adius, the necromancer, and of Lauga, Terwea was king. He was the son of Dia, son of Bon, the philosopher. 11. When Baal and Astaroth with their armies from heaven came near to these cities, they halted and built a temporary kingdom in the mountains of Zoe. 12. Baal said to Astaroth, behold, thou hast had the choice of cities. Give thou me the first assault. 13. Astaroth said, on thine own terms shall these battles be, and I will beat thee. To it then, said Onlauga. 14. Baal went to Terwea in his dreams and told him his son was waylaid by the people of Halgun, and moreover, that Tojak had determined to come upon him and possess the city. When Terwea awoke, he was troubled about his dream, and he inquired of the oracle concerning the matter. Astaroth had possession of the oracle, and she answered the king, saying, thou art of the seed of the faithless. Why fearest thou for a dream? Have a caution of thy dreams. Tell not thy son, for this day he goeth on the hunt, and thy words might bring about even that which otherwise might not be. The king went his way, but Astaroth sent inspiring spirits to the king, saying, to caution thy son, that would be wisdom. And the king went and cautioned his son. 15. Astaroth then went to Tojak's wife and gave her a dream that the prince of Lauga went on a hunt, to all appearances, but came near Halgun for a very different matter, which was no less than the slaying of herself and husband. The queen awoke suddenly and in fear and told the king her dream. Tojak said, 16, foolish woman, it was but the fault of thy diseased blood, which, coursing the heart, gave thee a foolish dream. Tojak dismissed the matter. On the next day, the angels kept inspiring the queen to send her servants to the place of her dreams, to which she acceded. And her servants were armed with spears and instructed to kill whoso came in their way, as if by accident. 17. Thus it came to pass that Terwea's son was slain. Terwea inquired of the oracle, and was answered by Astaroth, saying, why comest thou to me for comfort? Is not thy son dead by thine own fault? I said unto thee, mention not the matter of thy dream to thy son, for oft it happeneth that telling of a thing bringeth it to pass. 18. Terwea said, I am justly rebuked, O Apollaya, but tell me, thou that knowest all things, since one part of my dream hath come true, may not the other part, and of a truth, Tojak come to possess my kingdom? Astaroth said, if I tell thee, thou wilt blab it about, and do nothing in thine own defense. Terwea then made oath to obey the oracle, whereupon she commanded him to march with all his army against Tojak, and suddenly demand satisfaction in 10,000 lives to balance the loss of the prince. 19. This ended Astaroth's part with the city of Lauga, and now she went to Halgun, whilst Baal took charge of Lauga, sending his legions of angels to the people of Lauga to inspire them with madness because their prince was slain. 20. Astaroth, on her part, now assumed control of the oracle in Halgun and sent her warring angels to the people of the city, advising them of the justice of slaying the prince, because he was come, not on a hunt, but to slay the king and queen. And Astaroth further told the king Tojak, try thou me as to my truthfulness. Behold, in 2 days the warriors of Terwea will be at the city's gates. Be thou ready for them and drive them hence, or lo, thy city wall will be reduced to dust and ashes. 21. Of course, the prophecy of Astaroth came true, and Tojak now believed he was in the protection of the gods. The queen said unto him, a matter of weight is on my mind, O king. I commanded my servants to slay the prince, for the gods showed it to me that only by this could thy lift. The gods showed to me that only by this could thy life and mine be preserved. 22. The king Tojak justified the queen, saying, thou hast been the preserver of my life and thine. 23. Baal, god of Lauga, thus marched the mortal armies against the city of Halgun, whilst Astaroth marched the armies of the latter place to battle against them. 24. And thus, as mortals play a game with sticks and pegs, so played this god and goddess a game with these mortals of these two great cities, played give and take to see the battles lost or won, and they used their legions of angels to inspire the mortals on, or to make them at times turn and flee. And whilst the gods rested, amusing themselves by feasting and by talking over the sport of mortal death, the two great cities would also gain a little rest, but only to renew the bloody work. 25. For 4 years, the gods and angels kept these two mortal cities at war. And though they lay a day's journey apart, all the way was strewn with the bones of the slain. And in 4 years, they were reduced to dust and ashes. And as to the people of last year, for the most part, they were inoculated with the poisoned air of the dead, and they also died. And yet it came to pass, Baal beat Astaroth in the battle of death, for he caused all his people to be slain, whilst yet a few of Astaroth's remained. 26. Thus did Baal and Astaroth pursue the other great cities of Parsia and Helest, and the time of the destruction of any 2 or 3 cities varied from 2 years to 10 years. For the destruction of Athena and Troy, it required 12 years, and for the destruction of Etuna and Phaedo, it required 11 years. Betwixt Sugon and Lacao, it required 2 years to bring them to war. Betwixt Athena and Troy, it required 3 years to bring them to war. 200 vampires, angels of lust, were set upon a prince of Troy, and in desperation, he was driven to kidnap the Athenian princess, who was led to exposure by Baal's angels, by Baal's angel host. In this great battle, Astaroth won the game, having succeeded and having the whole of the Trojans destroyed. 27. In the war betwixt Toes and Sun, which lasted 9 years, it was an even game, for both cities were entirely destroyed, and all the people in them, and also their tributary cities as well. But the city of Tol was destroyed within itself, for there was no city near enough to war upon it. The angels brought virus from the dead of other regions, and inoculated the breath of the people of Tol, and their flesh festered, and they died of themselves without war. 28. The whole time of destruction was 160 years, and after that, Parsia and Helest were wasted and deserted. Oh, and after that, Parsia and Helest were wasted and desert. And whilst beasts coursed the country far and near. I'm going to read that again. 28. The whole time of destruction was 160 years. And after that, Parsia and Helest were wasted and desert, and wild beasts coursed the country far and near. 29. Osiris had said, I will make the land of Egypt the great country in the world. I will have the place of my dominions near at hand. Satan had said to Osiris, if thou destroy not Parsia and Helest, behold, Baal and Astaroth will rebel against thee, choosing these lands for their own kingdoms. 30. But both Satan and Osiris, who now falsely styled himself God of heaven and earth, were powerless to prevent the march of Jehovah's hand. For as he gave liberty unto all his creatures, and as Osiris had fostered the idea of being sole ruler of earth and heaven, even so the seed of his own sowing took root in Baal and Astaroth, and they formed a compact with each other and seceded from Osiris after all. And in order to determine what share of the earth should be theirs, a war in heaven ensued between the 3 gods, and Tain and Sudga joined in also.